Edgar Wright is one of my favorite filmmakers working today, so it was only a matter of time before I made a video essay analyzing his work. For this video, I'll be specifically focusing on Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, the three films which comprise Wright's loosely connected Three Flavours of Cornetto Trilogy. Each of these movies is a comedic homage to a different genre, but what sets them apart from other such films is their unexpected dramatic weight, hilarious dialogue.
He's appointing himself judge, jury, and executioner! He's not judge, jury, and executioner! He is!
And Wright's meticulous attention to his craft, as he makes sure to take full advantage of what the cinematic medium has to offer in clever, inventive ways. Mise en scène in film refers to the entirety of what a viewer sees in any given shot. There are many different components to mise en scène. These include the set design, the makeup and hair, the composition of a shot, and the blocking of the actors in a scene. One of its most important elements is the costume design. The best costume designers can tell us a lot about a character simply by what they wear or how they wear it, and Wright works very closely with his wardrobe departments to ensure that this is the case in his movies. Take a look at Ed and Pete, Shaun's two roommates in Shaun of the Dead. The responsible, uptight Pete is almost always seen in his work attire, an office shirt and a necktie. Ed is his polar opposite, a lazy, unambitious slob who wears a grubby shirt and has perpetually messy hair. Then you have Gary King from The World's End, who always wears distinctly all-black clothing just like what he's shown wearing in flashbacks to his teen years, signifying his inability to let go of the past. Wright is also justly lauded for how he uses sound, whether it's by syncing up action to music, a technique he would later take to the next level in Baby Driver, or by utilizing everyday noises in creative ways. In Hot Fuzz, Wright's love letter to the buddy cop genre, such mundane sounds as the clicking of a pen or the passing of a train are heightened to mimic the kind of visceral sound effects you'd find in an action film. This effect is also achieved through fast editing, another recognizable feature of his style. Another notable thing about the Cornetto Trilogy is how they make use of foreshadowing and callbacks. In Shaun of the Dead, lines of dialogue from the first act will be repeated later in a new context.
You got red on you.
And developed symptoms similar to those displayed by their attackers. If you know some...
In Hot Fuzz, seemingly throwaway lines of dialogue actually contain vital clues relating to the mystery at the movie's center.
It's hardly in keeping with the village's rustic aesthetic, is it?
We begged him in vain to make his residence more in keeping with the village's rustic aesthetic.
And in The World's End, the name of each pub the main characters visit is a reference to a plot point that occurs there. For example, the hole in the wall is where one character crashes their car through the wall, and The World's End is where the apocalypse ultimately occurs. But what exactly makes these movies a trilogy, other than the fact that they feature a number of the same actors, as well as a few recurring jokes and appearances from the titular ice cream brand? What it boils down to is that the three films also contain certain recurrent themes. One of these is the theme of accepting maturity. In Shaun of the Dead, Shaun begins the film in a state of arrested development, and the zombie outbreak forces him to grow and make tough decisions and sacrifices. The theme is admittedly not quite as central to Hot Fuzz, but it's definitely still there, as the character of Danny is depicted as a naive man-child who has to face some hard truths about the father he thought he could trust by the end of the movie. And The World's End is all about Gary's obsessive desire to relive the glory days of his school years, while the rest of his friends have long since accepted that those days are behind them.
Aside from like fence jokes and ice cream, what they're all really about is about friendship, and then, you know, they all have this strain, particularly this one, of being about perpetual adolescence.
The other major theme is conformity. Notice how in Shaun of the Dead, Shaun doesn't even notice that anything is wrong at first, because everybody around him is so resigned to the monotony of their everyday lives that they already look like zombies even before the outbreak begins. In Hot Fuzz, the neighborhood watch alliance have people killed because their house was too nice, or because their laugh was annoying. And the antagonists in The World's End are aliens who are replacing human beings with robot clones who operate on a hive mind. There's a reason that Edgar Wright's work has achieved cult status and is the subject of so many video essays and analytical pieces. There are certain directors who pay such close attention to the detail and craft of their films that it creates a style unique to them. Wright is certainly one of these directors, and the Cornetto Trilogy perfectly exemplifies his knack for interesting, clever, and creative filmmaking.